You know, guys, right when I think that horror is looking up and that we are living in such a great time for horror, I am reminded of the shitty, gimmicky, one-note films that are still out there and do very much exist, like this shit pile we're going to be talking about. I'm just gonna get right into it, guys. This was a movie that I actually did have some hope for, and I didn't think was going to be that bad, and that is Truth or Dare. And look, I'm not saying that I was looking forward to because the marketing. The marketing was absolute shit. There's no denying that. I'm not saying that I was looking forward to the movie, you know, because of how it was executed. What I was thinking is that this was Blumhouse, and they were going to pull another Happy Death Day, where the movie looked like absolute garbage, or it could have been like a really good guilty pleasure. But in reality, the movie was actually a comedy, and it was aware that it was really stupid, and it didn't take itself too seriously. And that's one of the reasons why the movie exceeded all of my expectations. That is still one of the most surprising movies I think I've ever seen. I still can't wrap my head around the fact how that movie turned out so damn good. I mean, I have the Blu-ray, and that's something I never thought it would say. I never thought it would say I own Happy Death Day on Blu-ray, but it really is a very well-done movie, and I was really hoping that Truth or Dare would be like that. This is a movie where it looked like it was going to be a straight-up horror movie. It was actually a comedy, and I'm happy to, and, you know, I was really hoping that that's what was going to happen here, that, you know, it wasn't going to take itself too seriously, and I thought, you know, it's Blumhouse. They are above doing something stupid like, say, The Bye-Bye Man or Ouija. They've moved past that. I mean, this is a company who's one of the most talked about films, even for Oscar consideration, was, of course, Get Out. This is the studio behind that, and there was no possible way that Blumhouse was capable of making a movie that terrible and that shitty. And boy, was I wrong, because Truth or Dare is literally one of the worst things I have seen all year. This is everything that I thought Happy Death Day was going to be. Literally every single thing that I thought the movie was going to be from the trailers is encompassed in this movie. This movie is ridiculous, it's stupid, it makes no sense, it honestly is really offensive at points, and it's everything I hate about modern horror that is thrown into this movie. But we're just going to get right into it. The concept of this movie is so stupid. It really is. Basically, these, like, 6 friends, they go on, like, this trip to Mexico or whatever, because one of them's going off to, medical school, and they kind of want to, you know, celebrate. You know, they're in, like, college or whatever, like an off-campus house, and they feel like they need to get a little getaway, so they decide to go to Mexico, and they end up meeting this one guy, who is creeping on the main character, Olivia. He's, like, flirting with her. He brings them into this, like, cave of sorts, which, I mean, that always goes well. You know, go in this cave in the middle of nowhere, and, you know, nothing bad can come of that, really. If you go into this really dark room, everything great is going to happen there. But basically, he entertains this idea of playing the game Truth or Dare. Things quickly things quickly go off the rails when he tells them that the reason he brought them there is because this Truth or Dare is actually haunted, and at first they don't believe him, but over time we start to see that the game basically is following them. It's making them do all these terrible things, killing off each other one by one pretty much, and that's the plot of the movie. You've seen this 1,000 times. You really have. There's nothing different about this movie. The best way to sum up this movie is its Final Destination, but without the amazingly graphic depths. Final Destination, not a good movie series. Really not. There are, like, 2 genuinely good entries in that series. All the other ones are shit. But goddamn, are they entertaining. And they're some of the most fun I've had watching any horror movie. Why? Because, again, those movies don't take themselves seriously. They know exactly what they are. They're just there because they want us to watch these incredibly over-the-top, completely unrealistic deaths that make virtually no sense whatsoever, and that's all it is. Truth or Dare, on the other hand, is the complete opposite. I mean, there's so many things this movie does wrong. Let's just get into the acting, because there aren't necessarily terrible actors in this movie. There are some actors here that I very much do respect, actually, and I was hoping that they would maybe save this movie. No, most of the actors here are pretty terrible, and that's mainly because they don't really have a lot to do. Let's first talk about Lucy Hale in this movie as our main character, Olivia. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. There's not really a character in this movie to root for, but out of everyone, Olivia was the only one where I was like, alright, I kind of like you. Why? Because she's the good girl, but she's not just the good girl, she's like the smart one. She's the one where, when weird things start to go down, she's the first one to notice that, yeah, this is pretty much the game, and she is very smart about that. Again, remember I told you she's smart, because that's going to come back into play a little bit later. By the way, guys, full spoilers throughout this entire review, because there's literally no way I can talk about how shitty this movie is without jumping into spoilers, because trust me, there's a lot of stuff to get into with this movie. Lucy Hale, I thought for the first two-thirds really wasn't that bad. I thought she actually was kind of bringing something to this movie. It did seem like she was the only one that was into it, but then the third act, she got way too over the top, and I just really couldn't stand her in the third act, I have to say, and she's wasted in this movie, really wasted. And I don't think Lucy Hale's a bad actress. I actually, as much as I realize how stupid of a show Pretty Little Liars is, I did think she was one of the better actresses, and I do think she does have potential as an actress, but she is really wasted here, and she has almost nothing to do. Same with Tyler Posey. Tyler Posey, I don't think is really that great of an actor at all. I think the only reason that he worked in, the only reason that we see him as good actor is because he was in a show that suited him. Like the character of Scott McCall, it worked perfectly for Tyler Posey, and I don't think he's ever going to get a role as good as that. I think he's always going to be known as Scott McCall, and it's sad because, you know, actors, obviously, they want to branch out and do other things once a project ends, but this movie just confirms me that Tyler Posey, he's always going to be known as just that. He's always going to be known as just Scott McCall. He's so bland in this movie. There's, like, nothing to this character whatsoever. He's just there to be this love interest for these two girls to fight over, and that's really it. And I thought he was really not that great in this movie at all. There are so many scenes where he's supposed to be expressive and he's supposed to feel really bad about what he's doing, but he is just so emotionless and robotic, and I'm like, come on, man, give me something here. Give me some emotion, but he was just not into this at all. Same with Violett, Beane. Hayden Szeto here. I don't know what happened to him. This is one of my favorite actors from Edge of 17. One of my favorite supporting performances of 2016 in Edge of 17, and he is completely wasted here again. He's playing like the token gay character who is afraid to like come out to his dad or whatever, and that's all there is to him. There's nothing else to him as a character. Same with everyone else in this movie. Nolan Gerard Funk is terrible here. Easily, I think, the worst performance of the bunch, in my eyes at least, I think, is either him or Violett, Beane. Who Violett, Beane, again, I don't think she's a bad actress. I think she's really good in The Flash. She showed me she could do a very good job as a character of Jessie, but again, she's just completely wasted here. And that's the same for most of these actors. They have nothing to work with. There's really nothing for them here, but Nolan Gerard Funk is truly terrible. I mean, every line he says, he sounds like a serial killer. I kept waiting for some reveal that he was the killer of this movie because he has this sadistic type voice throughout the whole movie. It's like, some people compared it to like Patrick Bateman in American Psycho, and that is honestly a very apt comparison when you watch him in this movie. Trust me, he has that exact same arrogant attitude. The only difference is he's not the killer, and I kept waiting for that to happen, but rest assured, that is not the case here at all, and I was honestly very surprised about that. Like I said, acting sucks, but that's not the thing I really want to talk about. Let's talk about the directing of this movie, because holy shit, the directing, I mean, this is easily the biggest problem in the movie. Like I said, going in this movie, I was really hoping this would be like a Happy Death Day, and it's the complete opposite. This movie takes itself way too seriously. I mean, the whole thing, there's rarely a moment where they have fun with this. There's rarely a moment where they kind of realize how stupid this whole thing is, and the whole thing isn't played straight, and it's not played straight in a way where they're playing it straight but it's for comedy. No, this is a straight up horror movie, and it doesn't work whatsoever. I mean, anytime this movie tries to be scary, it almost always comes off funny. There's rarely a point in this movie where actually, there wasn't one point in this movie where it actually scared me. These scares are so cheap, and none of them work. There's so many false jump scares in this movie. Like, there are points where you know, they hear a loud noise and, oh, it's just their friend, or, oh, it's just some random person that has no bearing in this movie whatsoever. I mean, it is completely just overstuffed with every horror cliche in the book. The only horror cliche is that there's no bird that hits the window. That's like the only cliche I did not see in this movie, and it really pissed me off. I legitimately thought that we were above these cliches, but this movie tells me that that's not the case at all. We clearly are still into it. The other problem with this movie is that it actually does get quite dramatic. It tries to make you feel for these characters. It does try to add some layers to them, and it does not work whatsoever, because everything they're adding to these characters are not interesting at all, and it does not know how to go about this. And it's just so, the tone is just so wrong. It is not at all what this movie should be. This entire movie should have just been something that had fun with itself. But again, it doesn't know how to do that. And now let's just get into the story. With that being said, because I have so many problems when it comes to the script here. Holy shit, there's so many problems here. Which, holy shit, where do I begin, honestly? There are so many things wrong with this movie when it comes to the script. Right off the bat, the plot of this movie is so stupid, and it doesn't intrigue me whatsoever, but it's stupid, okay? It's just, they're playing truth or dare. You know, the dares are really dumb, but I can get behind that, you know? If I could laugh at it, then that's fine. And at first, it's just kind of stupid. Like, you're watching, it's like, alright, this is just really stupid and whatever, but, you know, it's not like the worst thing ever. But then about halfway through this movie, not only do they start contradicting things that they set up in the first half of the movie, but they actually try to justify it. They try to deepen the mythology and say, oh, this game is connected to this game that was played. Then all these years ago, this game was connected, and all it does is overcomplicate things and makes no sense whatsoever. And like I said, this movie tries so hard to try to close all these plot holes when all it's doing is just confusing you more and more. And there are so many times where you can tell they're trying so hard to justify themselves, and it didn't seem like they were doing that because they had a reason. It seemed like the only reason they were doing that is so people would not complain that there were plot holes. It seemed like the writers were like, oh, you can't complain about that because we already explained it, and not only did we explain it, but we gave a lot of reasons as to how this could actually happen, and there's no reason for you to be confused or for this to not make sense because we already explained it. And it's like, no, all you're doing is just overcomplicating things, and if they would have just kept it simple, then sure, this would still be a really bad movie, but it wouldn't be nearly as annoying as it is. And that's my biggest problem with this movie, is that a lot of people are saying it's a guilty pleasure. For me, I couldn't see it as that because it was just so damn frustrating. And it also has to do with the characters, which, holy shit, the characters in this movie are awful. I mean, all there is to our main character here, Olivia, is that she's the good girl. She's literally told in the beginning of the movie that she's too nice, and that's like her biggest weakness, is that she's simply too nice, and it's just ridiculous. You've seen this trope so many times, along with like half a dozen other tropes in this movie. But like I said, she's like the goody good in the movie or whatever, and the problem is, most of the dares in this movie, you think they'd be really interesting stuff, right? Like, they really get us into the characters and that they maybe try to deepen them a little bit. It's the complete opposite. It really is. It not only makes these characters, who are already admittedly pretty shallow, that much more irredeemable and unlikable, it actually makes them worse. And you actually see how bad these characters really are and how much of a script these people clearly didn't have. I mean, the majority of this movie, it's actually not centered on the Truth or Dare game. The majority of this movie is centered on this really dumb love triangle between the three leads. I mean, we get an inkling very early on that Olivia is clearly attracted to her best friend's boyfriend, Logan, and she, throughout the film, there are all these questions she's like bombarded with surrounding Truth or Dare. It's like, why are you so interested about this? Why is the game so obsessed with Olivia's love life? It just didn't make any sense. Like, the whole thing is supposed to be getting them to kill each other and getting them to die. How exactly is this getting her to die? It just doesn't make any sense. I don't know why the film focuses so much on it, and again, I wouldn't be as upset if the film did not spend as much time on it as they did, but it's basically the main plot of this movie, is this relationship drama that these three characters are in. And all this really does, again, is just to create this drama that we really do not need. And there are so many plot lines in this movie that go absolutely nowhere. I already mentioned how, you know, Hayden, Szeto's character, is closeted and that he is afraid to come out to his dad. Well, that's all done away with because literally one of the dares is that he is forced to come out to his father. I'm not even joking. That's one of the dares here. And especially the type of movies that we've been getting, like Call Me By Your Name and Love, Simon, this is insulting. It is incredibly insulting. And I could just picture someone who is in who is in Szeto's character's position, you know, where he is someone who maybe is a little bit shy of coming out, and they just, you know, they're kind of worried about that implications. And if they were to see this movie, they definitely wouldn't want to do that, and they'd be even more scared to do that. I mean, this movie, it's trying to promote all these positive messages, but it's going about it in completely the wrong way, and it feels less like it was necessary and more like the movie was trying to be two things. One, PC, and the second one is just for plot points, and just so they could keep the movie interesting, and all it did was just drag things down. There's also this horribly written subplot involving Marky's father, who committed suicide in the movie, and basically she's kind of dealing with that. And there's this one plot point that gets brought up in the movie, and I get what they were going for, I really do, but this was incredibly unnecessary. It seemed like this was thrown in at the last minute. And the way that Marky reacts to this, it's not so much the actual event that takes place, because the event that takes place, it already is unnecessary. I don't know why it was in here. But the way that Marky reacts, it felt less like they were, you know, saying that, oh, this is terrible what this character went through, and more as if they were condoning what happened, and that it's your fault that this whole thing happened. Again, I don't really want to get into exactly what ends up happening here, but it's awful, honestly. It's one of the most offensive ways to go about this sort of message I've seen in a very long time, and the movie is just completely misguided in that way, and I don't really know what they were thinking when it came to that. And then the ending of this movie is just so absurd and ridiculous and so confusing. It makes no sense. Like I said, in the movie, which honestly, I'm just gonna get into spoilers. I don't care, guys. You guys don't care about this movie. You're not gonna see it. Just listen to what I have to say, because this is absolutely ridiculous. So, like I said, Olivia in the movie, she's a goody-good. She does no wrong whatsoever. She's literally asked in the beginning of the movie by Carter if, you know, which she would do. Would she, you know, kill all her friends, or would she kill the entire population of Mexico? And because Olivia at this point is actually a good person, she says that she would kill her friends, because why would she want to kill the whole population of Mexico? I should also mention that Olivia is involved on this YouTube channel and things like that, and clearly the only reason they did that is so this ending would make sense, and so they could throw this ending in here, which completely negates every single thing you set up with her character in the beginning. You introduced her as being the good person in this movie, the person that we're supposed to root for, and the way this movie ends, again, it just retcons all of that. It's like, fuck every good thing we did with her in this movie, because not only does she basically force Logan to have sex with her, which admittedly he seemed like he was into at first and then he wasn't, not only does she admit to all the stuff that happened between her and Marky's dad, which again was not really her fault, and the way that Marky reacted to that, that really did not go well with me at all, and especially people who have been involved in, you know, sexual abuse before and had that kind of thing happen to them. Again, similar to the whole thing that happened with, you know, with Brad in the movie, if they were to see that and, like, react to it, it would definitely not be a positive reaction. Like, this movie, again, is trying to cover all these things. It's just going about in completely the wrong way. But then the movie ends, and you get to the point where you think that Carter's going to save the day, you think he's going to cut his tongue out, and everything's going to be fine, which, again, that whole mythology makes no sense whatsoever. Then we get to the ending, and the way the movie ends is just so stupid. You see Olivia, she basically tells Marky to shoot her because it's down to the two of them. She shoots her lightly in the shoulder, and what does Olivia decide to do in order to rid them of this? Again, this is the same girl who said that she would save the entire population of Mexico. Instead of just killing Marky, so this could all be over with, and she's the last one standing, what does she decide to do? She sends out a YouTube video of the game to literally every single person that she could think of, every single person that follows her. They watch this video. She is a huge viral sensation, may I add, so anyone that sees this video is now exposed to the game, and basically, she has basically now cursed the entire world, because you get the sense that she is a huge vlogger, you know, on the vein of, like, I don't know, just think of like a popular female vlogger working today, and that's literally how this movie ends. And again, I would not be as upset if they didn't set up all the good stuff they did set up with her in the beginning, because again, it made it seem like they wanted us to root for her and be on board with her, but at the end of the movie, she's just as bad, if not worse, than every other character in this movie, who you do not care about, who are so shallow, and that ending just left me so cold. And look, there are moments in this movie that are somewhat unintentionally funny, and that's mainly because of cinematography. Cinematography here is atrocious. It's some of the dumbest I've seen in a while. The fact they actually think this stuff is funny, they actually think this stuff is scary, I don't understand. It's just funny. It's not scary whatsoever, and I don't really know what they were thinking there. The score is just generic horror pop music. There's not really much to it whatsoever. The editing, this movie is definitely way too long. It honestly could have been a short film. There was really no reason for this to be a full-length movie, because again, there just isn't really much to it, and especially when it comes to that ending, I don't know if they're trying to set up a franchise, but it very much seems that way. It reminded me a lot of the way The Bye-Bye Man ended, where you thought it was over, and then they basically said, oh no, it's not over. Like, it seemed very similar to that. The Bye-Bye Man didn't get a sequel. Hopefully this doesn't either. If you guys can't tell, Truth or Dare absolutely fucking sucks. It is the exact definition of everything I hate in horror movies. It's got some terrible jump scares, some incredibly unlikable characters, just so many wasted actors. It's trying to go for these really big messages, but it doesn't know how to execute them at all. It's just everything that we hate about modern horror. Every single thing that we thought was kind of gone and not really as much of a problem anymore, this movie does bring back. And I'm really hoping that this movie doesn't do well, because I genuinely do not want that sequel. I don't want this movie to do well. I don't want people to think that this is the standard for horror that we're saying, because there is good horror out there, and this movie is just tarnishing any kind of good horror we've seen before. Guys, without question, Truth or Dare is one of the worst movies of the entire year, and without question, I am absolutely going to give Truth or Dare an F.
Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you!
just skip it. Honestly, guys, just skip it. This is not worth your time whatsoever. You've seen this movie 1,000 times. This movie doesn't do anything new. Despite the fact that it's trying to do something different, it does not know how to do it whatsoever. The only thing that I can give this movie is that it's now earned a place on my worst list. That's literally it. That's the only thing I will give this movie whatsoever. Guys, that's it for this review. Don't watch this movie, whatever you do. We'll see you guys in my next video, which I promise for you will be for something better than this, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.